The first item on the agenda is to review and approve March 1st meeting minutes. Sorry?
Yes, Dr. Sullivan, when on the minutes there, we were thinking we would just like to list Dr. Sullivan as a facilitator rather than listing with school board, or just list him in his own category. That is agreeable to everyone.
Start that tonight?
Well, yeah, you can just
So
start tonight. We just wanted to make it clear.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, the meetings are agreeable to both parties. Next item on the agenda, at the request of the DEA, is ground rule number 9.
I guess after leaving here and putting on my other hat, in visiting with members, it was the opinion of our executive committee that we didn't have the authority to incur that expense. We would have to, at the very least, bring it back to a vote of the people.
Can you help me understand the context of this? Who comprises the executive committee? And I guess I'm a little bit confused about whether right now you're acting in the role of the DEA president or in a role as negotiator.
Negotiator.
Okay.
And you can't think of everything. And we didn't have it in our budget. And truthfully, when I proposed the bills last time, it was a tough sell. And that's kind of where that ended up. And I forgot to put it on the agenda. So it was not visited.
So where does that leave us right now? Are you suggesting that we table this item? Are you going to take a vote on it? I'm wondering what the purpose of discussing it right now is.
Well, we have a meeting on the 21st, and I would bring it before the group. But there are some clarifications that would help me. There were some questions that came up last time when I proposed the bills, I guess, that I would like to ask. There's a couple questions that came up again, and Mr. Fade did ask a couple of them, and at the last meeting I wasn't feeling good at all, so I really couldn't contribute at all. And those are things that I was supposed to ask. But one of them, and I think it was asked, was basically why we have to pay for a service that should and would be free. And at the very least, you know, according to Century Code 440408 or 440418, it provides for some guidance on that. That if we came in or one of our members came in, you could charge 25 cents a copy, from what I was looking at. and what they were saying. Now, that's one of the questions. And in reading the proposed minutes and listening to the audio, I think Dr. Sullivan tried to address that. He talked about it being the board's minutes, and if I'm just paraphrasing that, they would be your minutes until they were okayed, I think, by both. Is that the way he said it? Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, before we discuss this item, I have a concern about us opening this up again in the first place. I hear what you're saying, that your executive committee didn't feel that you had the authority to do that. I'm concerned that we're setting a precedent for that to happen in the future. And if those few people have enough clout in your organization to overturn an agreement made by the negotiating team with input from your resource person, that's concerning. And I'm concerned that we're making a statement that what we've agreed to at this table isn't binding.
Well, what we agreed to at the table has to be ratifiable.
I would agree with you that anything in the negotiated agreement would have to be ratifiable, but the ground rules are for the purpose of these two negotiating teams.
Have you never agreed to something and then found that there were extenuating circumstances or something else came about where you had to back up and say, well, wait a minute, I erred. I was wrong. And I feel like we were wrong.
Okay. So then what, I guess, new information or new facts that you weren't aware of before are available now that have changed?
It was brought to, I've stated that we more than likely, or we don't believe we had the authority. They didn't believe we had the authority to incur that expense. Anytime we have an expense that comes, our laptop went down. Okay, that wasn't in our budget. So we had to bring that back to the group and say, well, this wasn't in our budget. Yes or no, we need it. And then it goes to a vote of the members at that meeting. And then, just like here, you can't just spend without it going back to the group.
Okay.
That's the way I believe it is in every group.
I hear what you're saying. So it's a budgetary issue. And I know that you've already stated that it was something that you should have brought up before, and I think we're a little bit frustrated about having to have this delay and to talk about it, but it was an expected budgetary issue, one that probably should have been discussed before coming to the very first negotiations meeting.
I agree. Yeah, definitely should have.
Okay, so how do we move forward from here? You said you have a meeting coming up in which there will be a vote on the 21st, is that correct?
Correct. We have a regular meeting on the 21st.
Okay. And you have questions that you need answered before that vote can happen, or are you pretty confident that the vote's going to say no?
Well, if you'd help me with some clarifications. I mean, there was some research done on what other districts are doing. If I could, would you object? Because I was curious.
That's fine.
And Fargo and Grand Forks, they do their own minutes. Mandan, they split the costs. They hire an elementary teacher, and because it is after hours, and they pay $17 an hour. 14 minutes, the MEA side or share was $292. Bismarck, they pay a teacher $700 and split that cost. At the end of that, all the documents and minutes are put into binders for each side, so it's all compiled. Williston, the board provides and pays for everything. West Fargo, there's $50 a session, and they split that, and a WFEA member takes those minutes. Minot, each side takes their own minutes, and the MEA records. So that's what's going on in other areas that's something else that came to light from our members. And there's one other thing that really is kind of I want to say irritating to a lot of people, a lot of our members. Basically, we negotiate for 3 groups. We negotiate for DEA members. Our side also negotiates for non-members. And we also negotiate for the administrative group.
Can you give us a clarification
Yeah.
on how
Sure.
you negotiate for the administrators?
Absolutely. Most recently, in the emergency clause, or in the emergency leave language, we started negotiating that, I was told, in 2001. I don't remember. I don't have that institutional memory. But then I went back and looked, and we started that in 2001. And from 2008 to 2013, we beat that dead horse, as Vince would say, or did say, because it was the right thing to do. It was good language, and it helped a lot of people. And finally, we acquired that in our negotiated agreement. And then in April 29th of 15, it became an item for our administrators. And I don't begrudge them that at all. I mean, it should have been done a long time ago. But there was some discussion, and it was not very much discussion, and then Mr. Fridley suggested the language mirror what is in the teacher's negotiated agreement. Mrs. Fair said she did not have a concern with the revision, and the board negotiators would agree to incorporate the language in the new negotiated agreement, and that's from the administration negotiated minutes. And basically, then in a very short paragraph, it was implemented. My point being, at the very least, it was on the agenda and negotiated at 11 different occasions over 5 different years. We worked very hard on it. And you would agree. And there was a lot of sweat and money paid by our members to see that got in our agreement, and then consequently into the administrator's negotiated agreement. So that's basically how we do, and that's not an isolated incident. I mean, the 2-year increments, and there are other things that we've negotiated. You know, it was our baby, and we got it through, and another group comes in and claims it, which we understand that. But the thing that irritates a lot of our members is that we have to pay to do it. That's the rub, if, for the lack of anywhere. And an easy way I can see to alleviate that, you know, we know it's going to happen. We understand that. But if the school district would pick up that item for everyone, that would, I believe, alleviate the situation. And you know, the truth be told, it's a very small amount for you guys. It wouldn't keep the lights on at Dickinson High for a day. But for us, it's pretty substantial, and that's funds that we would prefer to provide scholarships for Dickinson High kids that are going into teaching, or milk for underprivileged kids, which we've done in the past. So I would respectfully hope that you would reconsider and provide the recorder, and still want input on sharing the minutes and agreeing to them.
So just to be clear, right now you're asking for us to revise Ground Rule 9, even though you haven't had a vote yet, for us to bear the full cost of Mrs. Peterson's services, correct?
Please.
I wondered is there anything else in the ground rules that you want to pull out at this time? Because if we can't decide on this, we need to, we cannot proceed.
That's the only thing I heard any profound feedback on. And it was loud.
Do you have another question you wanted to ask before we do that? Yeah. Okay. We'd like to take a break to caucus, if you don't mind. And that caucus will just include Mrs. Ricks and myself. Five minutes, probably.
Meeting will be in recess. Oh, I'm turned off. Score.
Oh, Tracy, you have the ball. Score. They were down 10 when we left.
I have 5 minutes.
You're up for it now. Yeah, we restrained that. There was 4 minutes left. We were down by 8.
Which way did they go? Because I want to go that way.
They went across the hall.
Is it on KFY?
No, WDAY, I think, right, streaming?
I mean, I was just going to try to get the radio.
It was on 12:30 KDIX.
Well, I think they got the
My mom had some coming up in February.
You get it?
How about if I just text the AD? Oh, playing overtime, 79-79.
What?
Donna just texted me, they're playing overtime, 79-79.
Oh, no way.
Boy, we were watching. They had a rough stretch in the third quarter, and I didn't think they were.
They're in overtime. Great.
Overtime.
Good, 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 good.
It's overtime. Yeah, it was 58-48 when we put one. I thought we were turning the ball over and getting the Did you find it? There we go. This is what I told you.
And I just started, I got this text at 6:48.
6:48, okay. That's great to hear.
And I made a giant eruption on my face because there was one tiny little lump.
I told Pam to text me. She was recording it for me. I said,
I know.
I'm not gonna
I
watch
need
it.
to
Just let
know
me know.
right now.
Because,
It's like-
there'll never be a blackout with this many people in the room. You know, usually I
Yeah.
say, I want to know, I want to go home and see it.
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
not
I
gonna
gotta.
happen.
Did you go to Bismarck last weekend?
Yeah, just on Thursday.
I only got there Saturday, but you know how that's always kind of we'll call it a reunion of some sorts. You know,
Gorgeous.
you know, Blake and Justin and somebody that's there.
You want to?
You
I
know,
hope that'd be
all
amazing.
different people that you don't see very often, but
I visited with Phil for a while.
I saw him walking. I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, or maybe it was in
Of course, when you
As
ride
a
down.
coach, I should know this. How many minutes are in overtime? 5? 4.
You get all of the old coaches, man.
Well, you know, I hate to say it, but it was kind of
Oh yeah, I did know that. He
neat
played mine at
at
overtime
Tex
twice.
Johnson's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because those were all the coaches when I was in high school, you know, and just to see them all.
That was very cool.
And out at our lake cabin, Dennis Lincoln. So, you know, I visit with him every once in a while out there. Yeah, how are these people doing? How are these
That'd be such a good win for them.
I think
Such a big one.
Big TV round.
one of our stations had the hot zone.
Yeah, the girls, the women's basketball team's playing too right now.
It's nice, but
National.
state tournament.
National tournament.
Huh?
They're in the national
Oh,
tournament.
that is a national tournament. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that.
Second priority.
What's the score, Trace?
Stephen hit a 3.
Who's ahead? Are we at 88 or?
Good phone in my family.
I know, I'm like, is that, how old is that phone? It doesn't sound very clear. I'm like, I mean, I am half deaf in my left ear, but I just.
You're half deaf in one ear and can't hear the other.
Hey, I can hear you great. I hear
making
better
fun
than-
of me, will you?
I literally am half deaf. I don't really know what to say.
If we really wanted to talk about you, we'd sit on the other side.
Yeah, I know. You've done it. I know.
Something like that, What's the score? 15 points per second.
I don't even know who has the ball.
Davies took a timeout, so I'm guessing they have the ball because they're going to try to set the play. 88-86, that means we must be up by 2.
Banked it off the backboard and in. They're down 5 with 12 seconds to play. Over. Good game. Boys, when you play a good game.
We
second answer? Your second answer?
Yeah, but they're in there, so, but no, just put it on the table. I'll throw it away.
I say, because the light is off in there, I don't know if they were in there or
Well,
not.
maybe they went in my office, I don't know. Oh, yeah. you can-
Say,
That's
they're
another
in the dark.
papers. Sticky notes.
Yeah, speaking of sticky notes, how many pink sticky notes can you put in a pile of paper?
It's not me.
They didn't have to blame them if they were in there.
That was unbelievable.
They were in there?
Huh?
They were in there?
No, they weren't.
I mean, they didn't.
Cindy said that you had asked for the list of teachers and FTEs and
Yep.
salaries, and Lyle, didn't I send that over to you?
You sent me a list.
And what steps they're on and what FTEs they were?
I don't believe so. It was just the names.
Because I thought, well, I made a copy before I sent it to you, but I've got another one.
Yeah, we're looking, the other thing the question I had that she
Because
put,
it had the administrators on it, because that's how it pulls it up, like anyone who's contracted.
Yep.
Then I just drew a red line through all of
Yep,
them.
you did.
So you've got that.
and we know, yeah, because I know that, if I take a look here.
It's in file 4.
I misplaced.
Well, I got another copy.
Yeah, and just how many full-time equivalent FTEs we have, I know that we've had it on there, and how many do you anticipate next year? Do you know?
How many what?
How many FTEs do you anticipate next year? Are we adding?
Right now, we're plus 5.
Plus 5? Are we anticipating more, do you think? Because that'll help us as we start to look at numbers.
That's all the budget committees get done in the story. 4 elementary and a sped teacher.
That will,
Yeah, we've talked about that one. I think Lyle, or somebody has this final copy, I'm gonna hand that out. And then from there, we can, if you want to sit down and go through all that.
the other thing that
Yep.
I was.
The only problem with this, though, and I'll maybe mention, this might be easier though. When I did this one, and I think I sent it to Lyle, or somebody asked for it, I can't remember who. But that was on January 12th, and it's a moving target. Because, okay, Riopel leaves and Audrey Bergeron comes in, and we've got markers in here for budgeted speech path that haven't been hired, and so it changes all the time.
Do you have the live one?
So it comes a time where you just say, okay, this is the baseline for this year, because after January, Cindy doesn't even update this year's stuff.
Right.
She puts everything in next year's database.
The other thing I was going to ask you for today was, do you remember that Excel worksheet that you did last year?
The calculator?
That calculated,
Do you
yeah.
want that?
Because I'm assuming that we're going to have different changes for, different percentages and things and healthcare raises.
Yep.
Yeah, if you could update
I
that,
got it.
if you could update that and take care of that, that'd be great.
Meeting will come back to order, please. Floor is open.
Okay. First, we just wanted to state for the minutes that the board does not agree that the DEA negotiates for administrators. We're not asking you to change your mind, just wanted to state that. Language is borrowed all the time as we start thinking about it. By that logic, the Minot Education Association negotiates for you because we've borrowed language from other districts in the past. But anyway, getting back to the matter at hand, do you agree that this is an isolated incident?
Yes.
Okay, we just want to be sure that the executive committee won't be interfering in negotiations in the future going forward, that if we make a tentative agreement, it's going to stand. Because if that's not the case, then we just need the executive committee to be at the table so that we can move forward and not be taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Agreed.
Okay.
So we have a compromise to suggest. We would suggest that the board would bear the cost of the recorder for the first 4 meetings. And after that, we could cost share the recorder. That might be an incentive for us to not meet so many times.
2 of those meetings were spent on ground rules. Our ground rules weren't even considered, or we'd be done with this a long time ago.
This is fair. Were you suggesting that it would be before the ground rules were established or after the ground rules were established?
We haven't talked about that. We just wanted to open up the possibility of a compromise, because it doesn't always have to be one way or the other.
It would be about 50-50 by the time you get to our May 6th time. It would be 4 meetings.
Sure.
We could start it today.
You know, Mrs. Ricks is suggesting we could start it today. We'd have 4 meetings in March, 4 meetings in May. We'd be done. I mean, that's just a way to look at it.
I still have to take it before the group, but I'd work hard. I don't like to be caught in the middle either.
First of all, I appreciate the step that you've taken. I just want you to know that. And I will work hard to make it happen. I will do everything in my ability to make it happen.
I don't know how we proceed if we cannot resolve it tonight. I mean, one thing just to let you know that our legal counsel has advised that if the board is the sole employer of the recorder, the minutes become the official minutes of the negotiation session with no input.
Your legal counsel has given you bad information before. These other schools are doing it, Mrs. Fair. They're doing it, and the administrative group does it. You approved minutes in I believe it was the May meeting for the April 29th meeting. So that's they approve minutes. You guys get together and you approve minutes. So how is that different? I don't understand. I mean,
Well, we're not lawyers. We're just letting you know that that is what our legal counsel advised the board.
okay.
We need a 2-minute recess, please.
Okay, meeting will be in recess.
Of course.
Yeah.
Pam texted me a questionable call.
Well, did we hear right? I think they banked him with 1 second left on the shot clock. They banked him a 3-pointer. No, I don't know if he was trying to put that bank or not.
Because
That's frustrating.
Then he must have traveled.
Oh, she thinks.
I don't know.
Oh, she did. Well, you got time to find out. I felt like I was
Depends upon who you are.
I'm really actually proud of them. They were down 10 and they looked dead and we left it down. We had like.
They're a spurt team though.
It was 13?
No, they're a spurt team.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They get good.
I understand. I don't know, Lee has been first half. I figured
He was out for 6 minutes without a hit because he rolled his ankle. And then he came in and just went wild. At about 6 in a row.
he's really about the only guy that's
And one of the of course, that wouldn't happen again. Meeting will come back to order. The floor is open.
Okay. Thank you. We're having a little trouble with this just because it's the first time it's ever been dealt with. We wanted some clarification. Did we hear you say correctly that your executive committee needs to vote on this issue?
No,
But it has to be taken back to your executive committee? Is that correct?
no, it has to be voted on by the group. Our usual process would be that the budget committee would bring it forward, and then the members at that meeting would vote on the budget. Anything outside the budget, it gets on the agenda, of course, like it does here, I'm sure, and the bill is proposed for a new laptop, for example, that was unforeseen. And then the group, there's a motion made and discussion, and vote is
Right.
taken.
So we've been talking about this since we met. See, we've had the ground rules since then, and now is when it comes up. It seems like maybe you could have had this vote before now, or meeting. It could have been handled before now.
Yes,
Okay.
I said that. I dropped the ball on it, yeah.
Is there never a situation in which you have to expediently use part of your budget? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, aren't there things that come up that you just have to take care of, even if you can't get a vote of the
Yes.
membership right then?
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that then you do have some authority to use expenditures on behalf of your organization if it's in the best interest of your entire organization. And it's my belief that being able to move forward tonight would be in the best interest of everybody.
I agree. Okay. We agree to your counter.
To the compromise?
Yes. Are we talking about the share being thirds? We have the board. We have Dr. Sullivan? No, just kidding.
Oh, you scared me there. I was like, wait a minute. He's doing us a favor.
No.
No good deed goes unpunished, Dr. Sullivan.
That's right.
So let's just work to clarify to help Mrs. Peterson. So what we are suggesting is the board is going to pay for the recorder, and then up till last meeting, and starting tonight
For 4 more
for 4
meetings.
more meetings. And then there will be,
So the easiest way
Yeah.
to state it would be, the board will bear the full cost of the first 6 meetings, because we've had 2 previous to tonight.
mhm.
And then subsequent meetings will be shared by the board and the DEA.
Mhm.
Is that agreeable language?
Okay. We also wanted to point out that really hoping that we would hear that from you. I mean, in the spirit of collaboration, we can always not listen to our legal counsel, but we needed to make sure that if we end up having to push this is what our legal counsel has told us, and that's what would end up, where we end up going with it, which we don't need to do that.
And it is a spirit of open and honesty too. I mean, and I admire that. I have no,
Great, so moving forward, we'll still be able to both provide input for the minutes, which I think just really brings a good feeling to our negotiations. So I really appreciate that. So do we need to then have Mrs. Peterson type those up right now? so that we
I'm
can
assuming
sign
she's
them?
already got them typed up.
She's doing them right now, I think, so we'll take a look at them.
Okay, the meeting will be in recess until the revision is provided.
Okay, take your time, we're not in a big hurry, we've got a lot of revisions there.
Tea time for Saturday, Sarah?
No, I don't yet. I might go visit my nephew, so I was hoping to go out to that for me No, neither will he. She's 2. I got him a nice stick and sandwiches.
That's what
He
bugs me.
wears it all the time.
Yeah.
Being able to be outside.
Thanks for stepping in, by the
And
way,
regardless.
clarifying that. I'm like, oh, I can't even figure
Yes.
this out. And I'm like, oh, not like it's so much.
Imagine my dad. I'm loving it.
Although I can't remember the
And
last time we went up.
you were right, the seafoam just took
helped?
4 days. He sent me a text this afternoon and said,
Oh, yeah. We can't
almost got
hurry
it started,
up till like
but he got battery is dead.
And,
So he threw the battery charger on it,
never
and
before that.
I got home and I pulled it off and I popped it up and it was right away. Popped it right away. So,
Good. And now once you got that stuff moving too.
yeah. Yeah. So just
If a guy
Oh, yeah,
can
yeah,
remember
yeah.
the last couple tanks before you shut them down, put 91 octane in them.
mhm.
Because there's no water.
Yep, and I put some stable in it, but see what he did, what I did that he didn't do, I ran my, when I turned it off, I ran it dry.
Yeah,
I ran
You
my
went-
commercial dry. He didn't.
That's what my
And I
friend
asked him
here.
that question, said, could you told him to do
That's right,
it?
as soon as we get the air fixed, we can.
Said, did you do it? I didn't have time. Well,
My
yeah,
friend
now
says
you have
that
time to
when we
try
play
and keep going,
volleyball on
don't
Wednesday
you?
night, she's like, oh.
Because the water and alcohol separates and it
Or
turns
my husband will have my kids.
And that's what they do.
You had any injuries over in your facility?
90,
Yeah. My court,
91
2 major
octane.
injuries already this year.
I know we have
Oh my
87
goodness.
octane regular gas.
1 gallon down.
Roaches, that's why you.
Kneecap goes
Oh.
over here.
91 Franklin's house,
You would have,
and West
you would
Dakota
have
has
sworn
91 without
that she
ethanol.
was on
And I run
the
it,
last few minutes of life.
but before you put it away.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I sat there and watched.
And I'll
And
probably
then,
do it, though.
okay,
Probably
if you get
just run
hurt,
it through a couple times.
What's the first thing you're gonna try to do?
Try to get it.
I'm gonna try and off the court.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
for
I'm
sure,
gonna lay there in
yeah.
the middle of the court and let everybody know that you know.
I've never had a problem with my court.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing that person doesn't have children.
Yeah.
Just saying.
We had adopted.
Adopted, I'm sure.
You could, it was unreal. You could see the indentation right here.
Ah.
Here's 2 copies. It starts with right there, that's the only thing I changed.
I get
It starts right there, that's the only thing I changed.
Yes.
Dr. Sullivan, did you want to read what she wrote? Or did you saw it? So beautiful. It's fine, looks beautiful.
Okay, let's sign these things.
So now we're.
We can't sign this one, it says draft.
Oh, so now she's just
Oh, is
letting us
this
Yeah,
look
she's
at it.
printing, she's printing.
Okay.
She's printing
like,
those
it's-
stuff.
No, it's,
No, you're fine. You're fine.
you're amazing.
I never said she
After
wasn't.
the- After the mistakes that we made last time, I told her we should put a number, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Carla. Do you want a copy of this? Here's a copy for you, I guess. Or do you want it or not?
Last in my class, decided that he was gonna take a week and go down to Phoenix. Well, he had taken a week off of school.
So now they'll win big tomorrow. Now they'll win big tomorrow.
No longer gonna get a
Win
week.
and they'll just keep winning.
Let's see.
Yeah, but you know, they have another chance. I
Fine,
mean,
Sunday.
there's two more of those.
Yeah, he is. And the day practices on Thursday. I forget.
Yeah, we're glad I said, here, this is where we're up, right away.
Yeah,
He was-
it's not fun.
Well, he's one that cross references that, and I would, knowing your experience here. And I told her, I don't know. I like to think it's written one that said.
Thanks, Vince. Don't let it get too cold now. I want it down to 50.
He's
I like
driving
it.
Honda.
Down, yeah.
I mean, it's full time. I said, Eric's in here.
Yeah.
I know it is.
Leslie's my barometer.
Kick my butt. He's got the 750, I've got the 700.
Way fast.
Okay, the meeting will come back to order, please. A copy of the revised, of the minutes, or excuse me, a copy of the ground rules with the revision to ground rule number 9 that was approved by both parties is in the process of being signed. Okay, that's item number 4. Ground rules have been signed. Item number 5 is financial presentation by Assistant Superintendent Root. Mr. Root, you have the floor.
I have 3 documents to hand out tonight, and what I might suggest is, like Mr. Fay and I did previous times, we'll just hand this out, and then if you guys want to get together and go through it in detail, let's do that. And, I'd be open to doing that. The first sheet is the salary schedule index, and probably for those in the audience, bargainers have seen this year after year, but I don't know if it gets shared at what detail. This particular final was done on January 12th of this year, and the reason I say final, but it changes, is because we have staffing changes. We have people resign during the year. We'll offer a contract for the rest of the year after the next board meeting to fill in for somebody that also left. And so it's kind of a moving target, but in terms of figuring out where we were for 2015, 2016, I would suggest that we use this document. and it's got the FTEs of 270.13, and it's got that index number, which is really critical, of 444.7459. That helps all of us to calculate what $100 on the base for this piece of the salary schedule is. $100 on the base is $44,474.00. So that's how it works. If the salary schedule doesn't change and you make the new base 36,100, that's the effect of it. And so in visiting during one of the breaks or caucuses with Mr. Fay and Lyle, I have extra copies of all of the people, the FDs that went into this at that time, and I'll get them to them, and then if they have questions on that, let's go through it. The second one that I'll hand out, there's a front and the back on this one.
Mr. Reed?
Yeah.
You could just clarify, we just had these numerous questions in the past. There is only one salary schedule.
That's correct.
There is not one for brand new teachers
Oh.
and a separate one for experienced teachers and so on.
Right.
As I recall, I mean, I've got numerous questions on that in the past, so I just want to make sure
That's a good point. That was, Cindy usually gets those questions about which salary schedule am I on, and it's a different one because we're younger teachers, and that is not the case. Every teacher that's followed by the negotiated agreement is on this one, and there are some others, and we've talked about that. Our social workers, even though they're not licensed and they're not teachers, the board has chosen to follow their salary on this schedule also. And OTPT, Steph Lyson, and some others are on here too. So thanks for that.
Yep, thank you.
The second sheet, if I could refer you to the one that says teacher salary costs and not the state revenue side. This is kind of the salary cost calculator that we used last time. It's the beginning piece of where we're at with 15, 16. And then I'll provide to Mr. Fay and Jay and anyone else that wants it, the calculating side of the spreadsheet. So if you change anything on the schedule, it plugs it in and it runs it. It calculates the career increments, it calculates the extracurriculars, everything. It just rolls it through. So if $500 goes on the base, you can see very quickly what that cost is. And we found that to be very useful last time.
That was probably one of the most useful things that we did, that you put together for us last time, is to do that. The other thing is, I know you have this in electronic as well. Could you send this as well?
Absolutely.
So that when we could plug in the new base, so we can start looking at numbers there too, to see what it does.
Okay.
And I know that you in the past, you've also moved the lanes. So you would make it like it was for next year.
Okay. So do you want what we call the vertical movement one?
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
Okay. If there were vertical movement, I've got that done where everybody would step.
Right. Yeah. Just that everybody. Now we're not going to put them horizontally, but if we just put in that vertical year experience, and that would give us a better number.
Yep.
Because everybody's going to be able to have that experience base jump anyway. So.
Okay.
Sure, that makes sense.
Just a couple of quick points on this, on the calculator for current. You see my notes that there are 30 people that are eligible for a career increment next year. And horizontal movement, on the calculator side, it doesn't show here, but it will on the right-hand side of this spreadsheet. Averages $45,000 in the last 3 years. This past fall, it was over 68. We had staff members, some staff members, we had one that went from BS+8 to Masters, and so they stepped all the way across to that lane, and it was really an aggressive one. So that both sides know what that potential will cost, at this point I'm using the number 45,000 And like I said, it varies. Last year it was huge, and because teachers have till the last Friday in August to turn in their credits, it's after bargaining's over when all that movement happens. Or, well, not always in this district, but it should be after bargaining's over.
Yeah, it should be.
Then you see the calculations for TFFR, Social Security, LTD, health insurance. I wanted to point out, that was the number I pulled off Cindy's health database at the day I did it. It must have been probably in mid-January also, because that changes every month. We have people that their job situation changes and then they go to single or they pick up family. And that was the calculation for all of the teachers on that schedule. And then you see term life and EAP. So our baseline, according to this document at this point, which I would suggest we use unless we collaborate and tweak it, is $22,298,000. Okay. On the flip side, this isn't the funnest sheet that I'll hand out tonight, but I want to explain where we're at in the budgeting process. Obviously, the board doesn't set the budget until August. They set a preliminary. By law, we have to have it in by August. We file our certificate of levy by August 10th, and then we have till October to amend that. The biggest reason for that is property taxes, and you see my number in the third column, a projected budget for property taxes of $9.7 million. However, that number represents a 12% increase to what we currently are levying. In this past year, our taxable valuation grew by 26.3%. But in visiting with the assessors, both county and city, the number they're giving me is, you might see a hold even, you might see a 7% is all. By state law, we cannot go up, we can't go higher than 12% increase. However, this number represents a 12% increase, and if you look at my red notes there would be two ways to get to that. We have a 12% increase in taxable valuation, and then we don't have to change our mills. Or the board could decide to levy more mills to get to that 12%, because by law in North Dakota we can levy 60 mills in the general fund, but because our taxable valuation has increased so largely, our 60 mills now is only 53.17. And we can't levy more than that because we've hit that 112% cap. And so I can go over that with any team members later too. That's a decision obviously that won't be decided here. That'll take board action, but it's the number I'm using in the budget at this point. State foundation aid, that's the sad one for next year. Keep in mind, when we do state foundation aid, everything's based on previous year. Right now, we're getting paid on last year's ADM, the number of average daily memberships. And we're getting paid on last year's county monies and oil and gas monies and tuition. And so Mr. Coleman at DPI uses all of last year's data to pay us for this year. So when I work on next year's budget for 16-17, I'm projecting a couple of things, and the key variables I list at the bottom. Obviously, taxable valuation for 2016 is an unknown. I think that we can get to that 112% either by increasing a few mills, or the valuation does hold and doesn't start to decline. I was in Bismarck for a legislative focus group, and most districts are thinking that theirs won't decline. I haven't talked to Minot and some of the others that are impacted by some of the pullout that Dickinson is, but we're using 7% is all, and so if the board would increase a few mills, they can still get to that, but that's another discussion. And then the other large elephant in the room is Hub City oil and gas payments. In the past, we've just talked about state aid and local property tax monies. The reason I bring everybody's attention to it this year is because the last session, there were, through legislative action, they allocated monies to what they called hub cities for energy sector employment. And the number that was used for the biennium is for each 1% of employment that you have in energy and mining sectors, those school districts would get $125,000. Our number, when they marked that last June 1st, was 40%. So we are getting $5 million this year for Hub City monies. Williston is 7-point-something million. Mine, it's less than us. There are even some like West Fargo that have 1% or so, so they get a little bit of that. It comes straight from the state treasurer's office, and so I talked with Ryan at the state treasurer's office earlier this week. He's pretty sure that that's safe for the second year of the biennium. The unknown is what percent will Dickinson have for that energy sector of employment. I've called the job service people, and with their cutbacks, nobody will return my call. And they don't know. They could do quarterlies, but Ryan at the state treasurer's office and I have agreed that we'll keep in touch on that. The number I'm using for next year is 35%. It might trend lower than that. And so I really am guessing at how much money we will take in with that. I haven't talked to anybody who thinks that that has a chance of even being on the floor legislatively in the new session. That'll be gone. And it always has been. We've received oil and gas monies before. It's really one-time monies because it may not reoccur. And the first 3 payments of that for Dickinson Public goes into capital projects, and then the other 9 goes into the general fund. But here's the big impact of it. It's nice to get that money, but the state funding formula imputes it. And what that means is that of every dollar that we receive, 75% of it is imputed and subtracted from our foundation aid payment. It's to equalize and make payments for school districts more equitable. And so the fact that we will have to record $4.6 million this year, and the reason it isn't $5 million is because the July and August payments are from last year, and then the new ones start in September. So it lags 2 months from the treasurer's office. So in July and August, we received $29,167, and then in September, the new bill hit, and it was $416,667. And I was quite shocked when that much came in, and I got calls from Minot and Williston. They were due, and it was kind of a bonanza. But when that's imputed against our foundation aid, the net result is that we will get less money in foundation aid next year on our per pupil payment. And the number I'm using now is a negative $544,000. Even though we are projecting that we will increase by 50 students in ADM from what is being used in the funding formula now to what we will be at the end of the year. And that's the other variable also. We've lost 95 students since the beginning of, since September 4th. And all of those students didn't go all at once, so we get to claim every day they're in our district. But so I have a spreadsheet that tracks that, so I can predict what ADM will be, and those are the numbers that I put in that state revenue spreadsheet.
What are you predicting for ADM for next year?
For next year, I don't have it here, but it would be 50 more than what's on our spreadsheet for this year. And so I would caution you two things. If you go to the state website and look at what Mr. Coleman's projecting, he uses our fall enrollment as what our ADM is going to be. I've reduced that by 50 because we've lost 95 students. And he also uses what we got last year in county Hub City oil monies. He does not update that. And that is a big deal. So in terms of that revenue spreadsheet, again, I would suggest that if you want to meet, and it's a 3-page spreadsheet. I can go through it, and I think Jim, you and I looked at it last year. I'd be more than happy to go through that in detail. I mean, it's got everything in there from weighted units for ELL kids to you name it, and it's pretty involved. But the budget number that I'm using right now is a negative $500,000 in that arena. And if oil and gas holds, at least for the for next school year, $773,779 is the moving number that I have right now. And then I make some notes down there on expenditures. I think that's just to be upfront with everybody. That's something. I know that these two groups don't negotiate the budget, obviously. That's the duty and the job of the board. But I think that given the extreme situations, there were some purchases such as land and FF&E for the new middle school and infrastructure that we used Hub City oil money because we knew it was one time, and we couldn't have it reoccurring. So that's kind of the short long version on how all that works. And again, just shoot me an email if you have a specific question. Anybody, and I'll try to answer it. And if you want to set up a time to go through it in detail, I'd be more than happy to do so.
I think it was beneficial for us to do that.
Yep.
And work through that longer ADM WSU sheet that you have so that we can look and see. Because we'd like to make an informed decision as well when it comes time, just like you guys would.
Yeah.
So.
The only other thing I would say about state funding, because I was at the NDCL Legislative Focus Group, which I serve as a resource person on, there wasn't a person in the room, and this is a collection of superintendents and 2 business managers from around the state, Class A and Class B, who this group is strategizing for how we lobby for more funding. There isn't a one of them that thinks that the per pupil foundation aid payment of $96.45 is going to change $1. Just to keep that same number is $164 million in state costs because of increased students, at 9,600 a person. So we're being very cautious about when that group starts lobbying about asking for, obviously, new programs, none of that, because it's going to be a tough session. But that does not totally concern this year's contracts, but yet costs that are reoccurring certainly are important to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that helps.
If you could get us digitally, both the salary index and that calculator, that would be excellent. I'd appreciate that.
Tomorrow. Yep.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
So just to clarify, this 773, 779, that's the total of the new money for next year?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It's not.
Wait for a different answer.
I know.
I was just kidding.
Any other questions?
on your report to the state, what number or what percentage of the budget are we looking at for salaries and benefits? Is it still right at that 54 range?
For the teachers group?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
I haven't calculated that.
Okay. Because I know that's what we utilized last year. Was that right around that range?
We're at 75 total with all employee groups.
Right.
And that includes food services.
And to clarify what we discussed, well, we were on break here for a bit, is that we are anticipating FTEs going up 5.
At this point, yeah.
And do we anticipate any more? So we're looking at 275.13?
Mr. Fay, I'll address that question.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay. We haven't approached the budget committee yet, but there's a good likelihood that we'll be requesting an additional position because of some recent developments in the district. And Mr. Reap and I haven't concluded that conversation at this point.
So for safety's sake, we should plan for 6 in our preparations of numbers.
Well, I was just going to make one more comment.
7?
I think 7 would be safer. Any other questions? Okay, that concludes item number 5. Item number 6, present topics for negotiations. The floor is open.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Fair?
The board would put out, our number 1 issue, of course, is salaries.
Are there any other items? Neither party.
Yeah. Okay, and obviously the DA salaries is there also. One of the things that I think we'd like to look at is to evaluate and discuss some of the indexes on the salary schedule. There isn't anything major, but there's just kind of a few questions there, and it's a little bit of a concern. So that's something we'd like to look at and discuss.
We have a language cleanup item that we'd like to discuss.
On what topic?
Swim team.
Swim team.
We have one now.
Yes, we do.
So we need to fix that.
There might be just like a couple other grammatical things or something,
Yeah.
but we'll bring that language.
That's one we know for sure. We'll go through it and just see if there's anything, minor errors that need to be corrected. But.
We would like to look at graduated personal leave.
I know that was discussed a little bit last time and dropped off, and oh, did we hear it. So.
Yeah, sure. Oh, wait. No, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
The other topic is looking at the school calendar.
Making it shorter?
No. No, probably not.
Our next issue that we have is to include in the negotiated agreement a section on outside the workday compensation. I know it's a gentleman's agreement right now, but I think that we feel that with, as long as Dr. Sullivan is with us and you're on the board and so forth, that gentleman agreement is pretty safe. But if for some reason things change in the future, which I'm sure they will, we'd like to make sure that that's in the negotiated agreement as such.
Was that one of those agreements we signed last time?
Transfer
That-
was a memorandum of
Yeah,
understanding.
Yeah, memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, so we
It was
agreed
signed by
then,
both parties.
yeah,
Yeah.
we agreed that we could bring that back. Mhm. Maybe we'll that up next one. Yeah. Yeah.
We'd like to look at having a management rights clause,
In the negotiated agreement.
yeah, in the negotiated agreement.
Yeah, I guess I would just, can you clarify just a little bit more? I'm not quite sure what you're,
The management rights clause, Minot has one in their negotiated agreement as well.
okay. We would like to add into the negotiated agreement what currently is already happening in our district right now, but licensed teacher sub-pay.
I think that's a good one, yeah. That'll be our last one, probably. The final one we have, at least for this evening, is recruitment of highly qualified and experienced teachers.
We would like to clarify the definition of the national certification clause in the negotiated agreement.
That's the, was it the national certification of teachers? I remember it.
Yeah,
I just wanted-
last page.
Yep, it's
The
right,
bonus.
it's like the very end.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the board has indicated it's included for the evening. Do you have any additional ones for the DEA?
Mhm.
And one of our biggest issues, and I think that we've already discussed it as well, but since you brought it up with your recruitment of highly qualified and experienced teachers, is the retention of highly qualified and experienced teachers. And, Mr. Chair, that would be all for us as well, for tonight.
Be all for the DEA?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, we'll go through a debrief. The March 1st meeting minutes were approved and signed by both parties. The ground rules were revised. with a revision to ground rule number 9. And then the ground rules with the revision were approved and signed by the parties. The assistant superintendent provided financial material for both parties. And in terms of the topic, the board topics were salary, language cleanup, school calendar, management rights clause, and recruitment of teachers. DEA was to discuss some of the indexes on the salary schedule, graduated personal leave, outside workday compensation, licensed teacher subpay, definition of national certification, and retention of teachers. Did I miss anything? Okay, the setting a date and time and setting some agenda topics for the next meeting. So we'll start with the date and time.
I believe next Monday at 5 o'clock would be a great time.
Yeah, we can meet next Monday at 5 in the school board.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which would you rather do, Mrs. Ruth?
Someone else can share that.
Wednesday nights are work study.
If we don't go, if we don't go to Williston, we could do Tuesday.
We can go, you and I go in.
No, except for Wednesday at book club.
We have our book club on Wednesday.
We're good to go any day.
Our book study.
Yes. Yeah.
So is there a suggested date?
I don't really have an idea, but you couldn't do
I can't do Tuesday.
Tuesday works.
No Tuesday.
No
Sorry,
Tuesday.
it's like the only day I believe next week that I can't do.
Mrs. Ricks, did I?
Monday and Tuesday. Obviously, Monday we have a school board meeting.
Yep.
Tuesday I cannot do.
You cannot do?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all open.
Thursday. Do Thursday.
Thursday's fine. You can't go Wednesday?
No,
We
have our
we
book
both have
study.
book club.
We have a book study on the next.
Thursday's fine.
Thursday, the 17th.
We'll have to move that
We'll, yeah, I've got it. I just need to. Then I can look here and see what we can do.
Are we looking at Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday, the
St. Patrick's Day.
17th, St. Patrick's Day? We're
Yeah.
not going to the crawl, are we?
Oh, we'll be lucky.
And the time?
Thank you. 4? 4? Can you do 4? Thursday, 4?
I kind of,
We'll practice.
yeah.
So,
Six
evening.
would be the earliest.
6 is typically the earliest right now,
Okay.
Okay.
if that's okay.
So you're going Thursday, March 17th at 6 p.m.?
Mm-hmm.
Does that work?
Works for me.
Okay.
If anyone finds a conflict in the next day, just try to get that into the office right away, and we'll try to get, you know, we just might find one. I don't know if anybody has something, but let's try to get it in.
Okay, agenda topics for the next meeting. Obviously, items 1 and 2 would be on the agenda for the call to order and approval of the minutes. Item 3, I would suggest, would be presentation of topics for negotiations, since the parties have agreed that, well, it's actually the second meeting after ground rules are established, so that can go on for 2 more meetings. So, but the parties have agreed that for 2 meetings after ground rules are approved,
Mm-hmm.
that topics can be presented. So that would be item number 3. And from there, I'd need to know what the parties want.
I don't know. We can't really prioritize topics till we have them all out.
That's true.
So it may be a short meeting.
Yeah, you know, well, we could choose, you know, a couple of them that would be easier. For instance, you know, I know that the one that I'm looking at that would be, could quite possibly be easy is the one that on licensed teacher subpay, which is already done, it's already in place. We just like to have it in a negotiated agreement. I mean, that's a current practice. And we could clarify the definition of national certification. I mean, so there are some, I think, that might
They might just be able to start talking.
be able to start
No, the
talking about.
language cleanup you could probably just do easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
language
Yeah.
Because,
cleanup.
Yeah.
usually we agree
Well,
totally
let
on
me
that.
see if I can help.
Yes, please.
I'm just gonna hand one copy to each party. That was the
Two.
process that was utilized in the past
Mhm.
to prioritize all the topics once
Mhm.
they were placed on the table. And I think that was the point that Mrs. Fair was making, was that until we have all the topics, the
And that would be-
prioritizing process in terms of discussion can't occur.
And that would be prioritization. I don't know if it is even necessary, considering we're going to have to talk about them all anyway.
Well, you have to decide what you're gonna talk about first and second and third and, I mean,
Well,
As we get into it,
how
do you
about
think, or no?
Here's what I propose then. I would propose that rather than prioritizing, we each, you know, if we do a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, each side propose 1 or 2 per meeting.
To talk about.
How about if we just put down there that we have present topics for negotiation, and then the next item would be discuss topics? And leave it open to each party to decide how they want to proceed.
Because I remember prioritizing caused some issues last time as well.
yeah, and part of that, I think, was also creating those problem statements, which were difficult.
Yeah.
And I think if, for my interest would be just in trying to understand what your topic is and what the problem is. That would be important for me. I mean, creating a problem statement about it, we probably can get that once you tell us.
We can discuss.
So agreeing on that problem statement maybe doesn't work.
But I think that would be a good way of handling it, you know, do one of your topics, one of our topics, and then just kind of flip-flop back and forth. Because obviously we're going to try and put the ones that we're, you know, some of them are fairly easy. We might be able to get off the table in minutes.
Perhaps, yeah. I don't know if taking turns back and forth, that may not work, just because we may need additional information. But maybe we could determine that at the end of the meeting. Like for this meeting, I say for next time, if you want to, if you wanted to do the, which one was it? Oh, the licensed teacher subpay. I do not know anything about that, so I'd have to ask Mr. Reep to prepare some information for us, so we'd be informed about it.
I would even tell you what it's about. We don't have time though. We do, but we don't.
So,
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger for next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we would need time, say, to prepare that language cleanup, if
Right.
that's what we would want to do, we'd want to get that ready.
Okay. So maybe we, like Dr. Sullivan said, discussion of, and then we can
Discuss it?
we can talk about what we see as our issues and why we think it's important.
Sure. Yep, that'd probably be good.
Okay, would there be any other items on the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.